never ceases to amaze me how something could start off so small and then just become such a massive worldwide success. What I'm talking about today is a series called Danganronpa. Now, Danganronpa started off as a visual novel-ish game where the plot was a bunch of school students are stuck together and they have to murder each other, and whoever can murder someone and escape the class trial and not be found guilty will graduate and leave the school, what have you, and the other students will be executed. And it's a wild, wild concept from when it first came out. Now, I did not get into the Danganronpa series till around last summer. So during the Steam summer sale, I had purchased Danganronpa 1 and 2 and had played them. I started getting into the other parts of the series. I watched the first anime, the season 1. Then I played my personal guilty pleasure, Danganronpa Ultra Despair Girls. And then I watched the anime series, Danganronpa 3, The End of Hope's Peak. And all of it was fantastic, and it blew my mind how a game that was just so niche and so small when it came out blew up into this incredible franchise. I mean, there's countless cosplays, all types of merchandise, especially with Monokuma. Heck, I want to get a Monokuma myself. But the franchise really exploded. And after watching the End of Hope's Peak Academy, I was a little bit skeptical on its newest game, Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. Now, I will say this video is going to contain massive spoilers about the game. So if you do plan on playing it or are currently playing it, I don't recommend you watch this video until after you've beaten the game. It's really better if you enjoy it for yourself, and I don't want to ruin the ending for you because it's pretty phenomenal. So first off, let's talk about the game itself. So, how does it compare to the other ones? Well, visually, I would say it's on par with 2. It's very well done. It, of course, has that awesome Danganronpa anime style. You know, the bright colors are bright, the dark colors are dark. One thing I will say, though, I was initially turned off by the new roster of characters, but as the game went on, I was starting to get very attached. However, I will say that I feel like, as far as like what the ultimate skills were, they were kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, if that makes any sense. Like we see another ultimate detective, then we see like an ultimate anthropologist, an ultimate supreme leader, what have you. And I feel like in trying to be new with their ultimate characters, they kind of scrape the bottom of the barrel. But just because the character's initial skills, I feel, are subpar in comparison to some of the others, I will say that the character development that makes up for these traits that are lackluster. The way that we see these characters interact, I think, is the most fleshed out we've ever seen characters within the game. If you count the anime series, yeah, those characters are more fleshed out, but just looking at the games themselves, Danganronpa V3 is incredible with its characters. A lot of characters I started really not liking when the game started, but towards the end I was actually rooting for them, and somewhat disappointed if they eventually died. So the fact that this game was able to make me like unlikable characters, I feel that's pretty impressive. Usually I'm pretty stern when it comes to things like that. Now, as far as the gameplay itself, it's your typical Danganronpa. The exploration and detective modes are in first person, then you have the trial, which is typical, you know, you answer your questions. There's a couple new mini games added that I really do like. They're really more engaging than I think previous ones were. And I will say there's a new mechanic that I like, but I feel was misused. So there was a mechanic called the lie mechanic. Now, at certain points of the game, what you have to do is you have to say a lie. Like, you purposefully go out and lie in order to get to the truth. And I thought that was a pretty smart idea. However, I will say that it felt like the game kind of told me when to do it. It'd be like, oh, I have to do this again, and then I'd be like, oh, I have to lie. Now, I'm not sure if I was able to actually use the lies in other spots than when the game told me. I'm not entirely certain. I wasn't really sure, because it was a new mechanic and I wasn't really used to it yet. But nevertheless, the lie system is certainly very refreshing. And it is very interesting to see a different way that these characters interact. Now, the biggest draw of Danganronpa has always been its story. The story is always phenomenal. It's like watching an anime series, which is why I think Hope's Peak was such an awesome adaptation. At multiple points throughout the entirety of the game, I had thought, oh, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And every single time the game completely flipped what I was thinking. And that really surprised me, because I was like, this is the third Danganronpa game I've played. I know all the tricks, I know how it works, I know the character arcs. And I was really, really surprised in how well they were able to trick me and lead me to come to my own conclusions when I was completely wrong. And coming from a game that's this late in the series and it's still able to surprise veteran players, that's not an easy feat. And I think it definitely earns a lot of points for its story. So now the details of the story itself. So the plot is, of course, a bunch of teenagers wake up and they don't know where they are, and they're forced to play in this killing game acted by Monokuma. I will say, though, this time Monokuma has 5 Mono Cubs, and I think they're the cutest thing ever. There's Monotaro, Monophony, Monodam, Mono Kid, and then Monosuke. And I think they're just so funny the way they interact with each other. And I'd like to get some plushies of them at some point. I don't know. I thought they were really cool characters. I said earlier that the story would lead me to a direction with a completely 180, right? So, when you first play the game, you are led to believe that this game takes place in the Danganronpa universe. It's led to believe that this group of students is the last hope for humanity. Humanity was wiped out by a meteor attack. And all these kids were sent to space via something called the Gopher Project, which was supposed to save the world and keep humanity alive, right? However, and this is where this game starts to go crazy and excel. So the last mission is you trying to escape like always, right? But then there's this wild reveal that this game, Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony, is not part of the Danganronpa universe. It is our world, the world that we, the player, live in. And these characters are people that have volunteered to have their memories wiped and have their personalities changed to be a part of Danganronpa. See, the V, they're tricky. The V here is not a V. It's a 50. This is Danganronpa 53, implying that after 1 and 2, it became such a huge, popular thing that people had 53 seasons of it. And that's wild. And just that concept, that fresh idea of holy crap, it's gone on forever, blew my mind, and I was like, yeah. So it makes the final boss encounter super, super, super intense, because you're like, holy crap, these are real people, right? And I thought about it. And that's kind of the only way that I'd like to see this series end. If there is another Danganronpa, I don't think there needs to be. Danganronpa V3 is kind of like the anti-Danganronpa. It throws away all the conventions while keeping us lured that yes, this is indeed the same. And I think this is a very good way for it to end. A series that is constantly stuck in this cycle of hope and despair, hope and despair, hope coming out on top, hope coming out on top. It could only end with this satirical ending. Now, the ending of the game is that the characters that survive, they decide, all right, nope, we're not going to vote, we're just going to end it right here. So they all die, but then there's like this crack that comes in, and they're like, oh, okay, so we can just go explore the fictional world now. And I was like, you know what? I think that's an appropriate way to end it. So the way that it's set up is that the Danganronpa series happens, right, from Danganronpa 1 to End of Hope's Peak. And then the real world was like, we need more, we need more, we need more, we need more. So they were cranking out Danganronpa series until they finally brought it to real life and taking real people. And I thought that was a wild, wild twist. I appreciate a show that can understand how meta it really is. So, if you're satisfied with the way that Hope's Peak Academy ended, I would still recommend playing this game. It's still very, very, very much enjoyable. I will say, though, you have to take it with a grain of salt. It does get kind of ridiculous, but when you're dealing with Danganronpa, it shouldn't be a surprise that this show gets crazy. I'm very happy with it. And the way that the game ends is the best way for this series to end. And I'll always remember it for all the fun that I had while I played it. So, I think it's definitely worth checking out. Alright guys, this has been another episode of Kirk Talk. I hope you enjoyed my 2 cents on the new Danganronpa game. If you're a fan of the series, definitely recommend picking it up. Alright guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.